Hello and welcome to Season 2 of the Push Podcast. This is the podcast where we explore the real stories behind what makes entrepreneurs and business owners the successes they are today. I am Jack Ferguson, a small business growth strategist, and I will be your host. I believe the best way to learn and be inspired is to listen to the experiences and stories of those you respect. Their real experiences, their real story, warts and all. Honest storytelling is what this is all about. Show notes can be found at bethepush.com/podcast, and don't forget to hit subscribe wherever you are listening to this. Hello and welcome to another episode of the podcast. I'm excited to reintroduce someone who has been on the podcast not once but twice before. Justin Falk, founder of Talent Vine. If you don't know what Talent Vine is, it is APAC's leading marketplace for connecting recruiters and employers. Check out more about them at talentvine.com.au. Given Justin has been on the podcast twice before, it's quite an experience to reflect on who we were when we spoke 4 years ago. The beauty of having a podcast means you can go back in time and get a feel for who you were then and document your growth. Scroll back to Season 1 if you want to hear about Justin's early life and his first couple of years growing Talent Vine. For this episode, we're going to be more focused on what has happened in the last 4 years, which has been a lot. Justin was really open about the challenges he had during that time. Convinced by startup culture that rest is for the weak and overworking himself, Justin experienced a range of health problems, including insomnia and chronic fatigue, and we discuss the effects of an excessive workload at length in this episode. It seems that when we push ourselves too much, we end up having to pay the piper. We discuss startup culture and the cost of buying into some of its philosophies. Managing your energy is now a big focus for both Justin and I, which makes for some interesting discussions. But Talent Vine was also a company significantly affected by COVID, and we discuss what he had to do to get through that period. I really enjoyed recording this episode. It was great to deal with some taboo subjects, and thanks again to Justin for being so open about his journey. Let's start the discussion. Justin,
Jack,
good to have you back.
It's great to be back. I cannot believe it's been 4 years.
4 years, almost 4.25 years, I think. The last episode released was 27th of June, 2017.
That is ridiculous. We were so young and naive, and now look at us so old and haggard and wise.
Yeah, the wise part. I like the wise part.
Let's go with that.
So third time on the podcast, actually, because I was going to, I'm like, you've been on it before, but then I realized you jumped on here and interviewed me as well.
That's
so
true.
So I'm kind of selling you short by saying the second time. It's actually your third time.
It is the third time, I know. By now I should be getting an award or a gift or something, right?
Right, yeah. You're the most capped speaker. I'll buy you a beer afterwards. How about that?
That's amazing. Awesome, I'll take it. Most capped, that's great. You've had some ballers on here as well, so I should be very honoured.
Oh, it's great to have you back. I'm really interested in hearing what's transpired over the last 4 years, because if anyone wanted to hear about your early story, including the child acting and whatnot, but the early days of Talent Vine as well, they can go back and listen to the first episode. But a lot's happened in the last 4 years since that episode. Am I right?
It has. A lot. I think the last 2 years is quite clear, and after that it gets a little bit cloudy. Who would have thought that's been this amount of time? But yeah, it's been quite a challenging and interesting and growth period, should I say.
And to set the scene, Talent Vine is now around 6 years old, I believe, and at the time we spoke last, or in your first appearance on the push, it was 2 years old.
Yeah.
So is that right?
Yeah, that is correct.
Right. And so maybe take us back to that previous episode we did. Can you go back and think about something significant that happened soon after that? Like what was going on in the business then, and be great to hear some of the things that have happened since.
Yeah, definitely. And I think just to start as well, like when I listened to our last episode from 4 years ago, I couldn't believe some of the things that I was saying, and I think how I communicated maybe about myself and the business and the users and that, where I think there was definitely a level of naivety in it. So like, I love it. I mean, slightly unrelated, but like I have an Instagram page for my garden, right? And the reason for that is I just get to document growth. And listening back, I felt it was quite a similar way. To, having your voice on that podcast and listening to yourself back then and who you are now, I think is a good way to document some kind of growth. So yeah, there were a few things there which Yeah, I shouldn't be hard on myself. I think I was just still figuring out the business and the model, and being quite new to the recruitment industry. Wasn't quite sure how things worked. So yeah, it was nice to reflect on that. But look, we're here now 4 years later. I think at the time that we originally spoke, that's when it was just still Tex and me, so the original co-founders. We were still going. We would have been based out of River City Labs. I think we would have done $170,000 seed investment round the year before. Actually, no, it would have been that same year. So probably about 2 months after doing the podcast, we would have first received that.
Okay.
Then, so yeah, really, really early days. So
before we move on, though, I'm now interested. It's important for business owners to describe their business well and to communicate it well. And when I went back and listened to that episode as well, it sounds like you were critical of yourself, but I went back and listened to it and I was critical of myself.
Oh, there we go. Okay, good.
I was like, mate, you didn't I didn't feel like I told a good story and structured the episode well. I thought you did really well. I really enjoyed listening back to what you had to say. But as far as what I did, I was like, mate, these days, hopefully you actually tell a good, coherent, say 60-minute story. But I would be interested in what you would describe differently now, how you'd communicate differently, and when you went back and listened to it, what stuck out as something that I would not talk like that now.
Yeah, great point. So I think one of the first things that came to me wasn't dismissive, but and yeah, certainly wasn't kind of an arrogance, but it almost had this air that Talent Find was going to come and it was going to save the recruitment industry, right? And if you weren't going to be on Talent Find, you were missing out, right? And there's, clearly as a recruiter, there's something wrong with you, right? And I think maybe a bit of that kind of stemmed from in those early days, whenever we did, any new features, or when we were, going out to the employer side or the recruiter side, what can we do differently? What can we do better? You'd go to the recruiters and they'd just say, just send us more jobs. Like, okay, well, fine, that's fine. We'll go and we'll focus more on the employer side, and we keep focusing on the employers, right? Because at the end of the day, that's the North Star, is getting new roles on the platform that the recruiters are able to place and make some, additional revenue from that. So I've definitely changed my thinking around that, how I might have kind of communicated that in the early days. And now, having been in the business for quite a few years, having never been a recruiter, but seeing, man, there's some incredible high value recruiters that are out there, and they save businesses, and they just take so much work off people's hands. And so it's fantastic, and it's amazing to witness that, be a part of that. And that's changed my thinking, and being able to see that in real life. So that's a big area of growth for me, I think, in terms of how I communicate what we do, and I think the value. But a big part of that also is that the business has essentially evolved quite a bit. So when we originally spoke, Talent Find was just that recruitment consultant marketplace connecting employers, recruiters, but would have been pretty much slightly after when we had first spoke, we had the first couple of corporates actually starting to come to us and say, well, actually, could we use this model to manage all our third-party recruitment relationships? And then, as you do in startup land, you nod and say, oh yes, of course, that's what it's built for. And then we frantically go and just start coding away for the next, well, I say we coding, I'm a very non-technical founder, so Tex was just coding away, and then we essentially developed the product to be exactly that, right? And that's where actually 70% of our revenue now comes from. The big employers that use us as that vendor management platform. So if you go to the homepage of the website and you see us, it's still very much geared up for that marketplace, the kind of clients that we are able to acquire through digital marketing. But yeah, that's the bread and butter of the business now. We are a vendor management platform, which is not as sexy as an HR tech marketplace, but that's what people love, and that's what works.
Right. And so someone said that they wanted you to do that. You said yes, and you've just followed that path since, essentially.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. That's correct. And I'm happy to share that as well. That was with Work Cover Queensland. So they've been such a foundational client of us. It's amazing, right? They asked us something, we'll build a feature for them because, they were the ones that gave us that first try, right? And those, when you're in the early stage businesses, man, just to get that one good logo on your website and that case study just opened so many more doors. And so they were the ones that originally asked for that. And we're now used in that same way by Optus, Ernst & Young, Grant Thornton, those type clients as well. So we've found a need.
And going about acquiring more of those type of clients, did you find that different to the clients you were acquiring beforehand? Did you see that took different skills or a different process or a different approach?
Yeah, I did. I think one of the things that I figured out is a lot of those more sophisticated kind of blue chip clients, they don't want to be sold to, right? If they want to use you, they'll come and find you.
Okay.
So what we've learned with acquiring them is, in those old days, and I won't go into it too much because, we discussed it in that first stage, but when we had no product, it was me picking up the phone to someone who was advertising on Seek and saying, hey, we've got hundreds of amazing recruiters that are, would be able to work on this role. Would you like some quotes? And then frantically going and, writing all this information, presenting them with a PDF document of, some recruiters with 4 and others with 5 stars. So back then, you're just trying to get traction, to prove that you've got market fit and that, you can secure more investors to help you get more growth. So back then was just trying to get anyone, right? Anyone onto the onto the platform that could convert into potential revenue. Whereas now, you need to be a bit more kind of strategic about it. And look, we're not out of the woods. We don't turn away work. But it's the bigger end of town. That's where like I mentioned, the main revenue comes from. And yeah, they get hit up by the people that we're marketing to 15, 20, LinkedIn emails every day, right?
Yeah,
so
right.
You really need to just kind of cut through that. And so we've realized it's, hey, this is what we're doing. Here's some value. Here's what we've learned. This is some kind of data. Here's a report if that's of interest to you. And if it is, then I find that they'll generally come back.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And what was that like to adapt to that strategy? Did that take a while to figure out, or can you talk us through how you come to realize how to approach them?
Still trying to figure out. Yeah. I think our job as a founder is meant to hire people that can figure it out and can do it 10 times better than us.
Yeah.
So yeah, look, it's still definitely a learning curve for us. I mean, a big thing for us is we just learn more, just follow the data, right? If we can look back and see, well, these are the type of clients that we acquired through expos or webinars, etc. Let's go hard on that. And let's double down on that, right? And that's something that you learn to do, I think, as your business becomes a little bit more advanced and more sophisticated as well. Whereas beforehand, it's just, you're throwing darts at a dartboard and trying to make cold calls in that way.
Yeah. Well, when you look back on that, did you enjoy doing all that stuff? I mean, it's something that I particularly dislike. I'm very enjoy the analysis and the once someone's already thrown a ton of mud against the wall, and I can go back and go through and sift through and work out, exactly what did stick and where they should be focusing. But actually being the person who's throwing it all at the wall in the first place, I dislike that a lot.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I dislike it as well, right? And the reality is, sales is very hard. It takes a very particular type of person that's willing to just keep picking up that phone, hearing no 15 times a day, and just to keep going. So I didn't enjoy it. I certainly have never enjoyed that cold sales aspect, but I think the enjoyment that I got from those early stages was it was market research combined with sales.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So I was I was open with people, a lot of the time. This is what we're trying to do. Getting some information from them, and I just learned so much from those calls, right? They would tell us. I think I mentioned, on the previous one, I thought that why people wanted to compare recruiters was because of the price point, right?
Yep.
And it's not. It's at the end of the day, they just want the most perfect candidate to come through the door for them, and so these are things that I really picked up on those sales calls as well. So people are willing, if you treat them with respect, I think, to give you that time and a lot of really valuable information as well. Yeah,
love it. And that's I've done that for a few clients recently, is get them into this direct sales type of flow, but I say, like, really if you can treat it as you're getting information from people, firstly you're gonna kind of win anyway. You're kind of setting yourself up to succeed, because even if they don't convert, you still got information.
Correct. And if they don't convert, it's one more name that not to knock on that
exactly door, right? Yeah, but it is amazing how many people will help out and who will give if you approach them with respect and if with openness and saying, look, this isn't a sales call necessarily, but we're just trying to find out some information. If you do want to work with us, obviously we're interested in that, but you don't have to.
Yeah.
And taking that approach and making it safe for them to then give you their honest feedback I've seen that work wonders for people.
Yeah, it does. And we get really good feedback as well. Like when we have a bunch of CTOs like that'll use the platform. And we've had a few that have come up with a bug and basically, they take screenshots of the console and they'll send a message through to us and on the contact form and just say, hey guys, I was on this page and this was happening. And it's amazing how willing people are to give of their time and resources, but you got to treat these people so well, right? You got to thank them and we certainly give them a gift and everything. So a small gift just in case people want to go and dig through our website for bugs. Please don't.
Awesome. Well, I want to move on to something that happened soon after our talk as well. I can see here in your notes, so you did a big investment round soon after.
Yes, we did.
But you had some other issues at the time, I understand.
Yeah, I did. I'm. So you know how we all drink the Kool-Aid and listen to the podcasts and everything, and everyone tells us how you're meant to do 80-hour weeks and, rest is weak and all that type of rubbish. Well, yeah, I kind of bought into that. And I was definitely, worked myself way too hard and basically to the point where I ended up giving myself glandular fever.
Wow.
And that was that would have been about 3-4 months probably after we spoke. And for those that don't know glandular fever that much, you'd be surprised how few people do know much about it, right? Even doctors and that. There's some people who still kind of think, not glandular fever, the chronic fatigue aspect of it, right? Always just think a bit more positive, or maybe drink a bit more water and meditate, and you'll be okay, right? But it's nothing to do with that, right? So it just completely saps you of energy. So I had glandular fever for about 2 weeks. Some people then get chronic fatigue for maybe a couple of days after that, and others, I know someone who's had it for 4 years, right?
Wow.
So it can stick around and be quite hard. So I had about 7 or 8 months of it, and I've used 2 analogies with other people which really sums it up. And I mean, I'm talking about I was sitting down in the shower like in the mornings, like because I didn't even have the energy to stand up, and taking breaks in between brushing my teeth.
Wow.
Like, all right, I'll brush this side and put the toothbrush down because it was just a bit too heavy in my hand, and then pick it up and do the next, and then heading into the office and trying to use this money that we've just raised through investment, growing the team. We had new starters every month that were coming on board, and you're trying to put on this brave face and especially with new salespeople, and we're full of energy and look at us, we're going to change the world, and meanwhile, and then the CTO is kind of tapping you on the shoulder and being like, mate, I think you need to go home and sleep. It's like, it's only 11:30 in the morning, but no, you need to go and rest. So I was quite stupid, and obviously still trying to be a bit, I wouldn't say gung-ho, but maybe it wasn't that stupid. I guess I didn't really have any options. I still had to turn up, right, and do it. Like, no one accepts, sorry, I need to take 4 weeks off to go and sleep, right? That's doesn't really seem acceptable. So I still thought I had to come in, show up every day, do everything I could. Being quite I love my fitness aspect, but just from mental health, I need exercise in my life as well. Otherwise, I kind of fall apart. And so I would wake up one morning and be like, I feel slightly better, a bit more energy this morning. I'm going to go to the pool and do some laps. And then I'd go to the pool and, you do a few laps and then come home and be asleep by 6 p.m. at night, right? And be an absolute, basket case the next day. So there's a few things that I didn't do right. I definitely could have managed myself a bit better in terms of my energy levels, rested a lot more. But I think anyone who goes through that, just put your out of office on, take 2 weeks off, and just don't get out of bed, right? Do what you need to do.
Mm-hmm. And you blame the excessive workload before that for causing this issue in the first place, or making you susceptible to the glandular fever. Is that right?
Yeah, I definitely my body was definitely worn out.
Yeah.
So it was. Yeah, I could definitely feel mentally, physically, I was just exhausted. It was end of November when this happened. So I remember I just all I kind of had going, just keep going, just keep going. You know, it's almost the end of the year. You've almost closed this investment round. So we got some money in the bank. We got money in the bank on the 19th of December, and I was diagnosed with glandular fever on around the 12th of December. So, so it was, you know, right that time. So I just kept telling myself, hang in, you're almost there. You've got that break over Christmas, New Year. You're going to have money in the bank. It's going to give you so many more options because, up until that point is, you know, you're early stage and you're looking at your P&L every day. You know, and you know, you're wondering how you're going to get through without going insolvent. So it was a lot of pressure that I had on myself, which I think is just part and parcel. And you know, unfortunately, I think a lot of people, if they want to do this journey, that's kind of part of it. But knowing what I know now, I would have, you know, worked smarter, managed my mental health, my fitness, those things better, and maybe that wouldn't have materialized.
Right. And when you were working those enormous weeks, you did mention working smarter just then. How productive were you? Like, I mean, I hear people talk about these huge weeks they do, and I'm always curious about how, if they look back, what their output was like. And what was yours like? I
think my output would have been the same if I had done 60 hours or 90 hours. Okay. Right. I honestly, there's a limit.
Yeah,
there truly is, right? And it's not glamorized at all, man. I'm a big believer that next time, hopefully it'll be sooner, but maybe if we do this again in 4 years' time, 80% of people will be doing 4-day work weeks. Yeah. You know, so we've got 2 people in our business that do, and I believe that they get the same amount done as everyone else. So we're waking up to the fact that there's nothing glamorous about trying to, you know, overwork yourself, work effectively, right? And just focus on results and just keep doing what gives you the results. So, a lot of what I was doing, you know, you don't know what you don't know, that saying, and probably 90% of the activity was a waste of time.
Wow, 90%.
Maybe that's a bit high.
70%.
85.
Okay. Wow, that's incredible. You do have your cognitive limits as well, though, don't you? Because I can think of it for me, but I've got a bit of creative time in me a day. I don't have that much, though. Like, you know, it's those really high intense, high level tasks, I can't do that much of it in a day, and I've come to accept that now. And
when is your high creativity time of the day?
Early afternoon.
Right.
So I'm shocking in the mornings.
Yeah.
So, but you know, it takes me a while to get going.
Yeah.
But once the early afternoon hits, that's when I can do an important task. Put it that way. That requires a lot of brain power.
So you design your workday around your energy and your creativity.
Yes. Yep. And that's a good point with the energy, I think, because I think of it more in energy now. Do I really have the energy to do write this white paper and then write this, you know, huge blog post and then write this whatever? If it's like 3 or 4 things that, come on, mate, you probably can do one of those in a day. If it's going to be good as well.
Correct.
Like I can maybe smash out a couple, but if they're both shit, I mean, what's the point?
Yeah, you know? Exactly. So, just don't even do it. We always overestimate how much you can do in a week, but underestimate how much you can do in a year.
Yeah. Sounds about right.
Yeah, it is.
And so when did you know that you had a problem? Like, what struck you as, can you remember when you were like, I've got no energy, I can't do anything, like I'm struggling? Like, can you remember actually that occurring to you?
Yeah, I can. So I was out for some drinks with some friends, pretty civilized on a Saturday evening, and I remember waking up and that morning, like having a bit of a sore throat, and like I was feeling I was run down and knowing I shouldn't be going out, you know, but it was, you know, it was a important engagement, and that anyway. So I did. Next morning I was like, I didn't drink that much, so I'm surprised I've got a hangover. And then Monday it was like, we've still got a hangover. This is really weird. And then I think on about Tuesday I was like, hang on, this is not a hangover. This something here doesn't feel quite right. So I can't remember exactly. That's one of the things that it does, is it smashes your short-term memory, actually. Chronic fatigue.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, it would have just been a case of, a few days later realizing something here is not right, going to the doctor, and then just got tested for Epstein-Barr. Could see that I had that virus quite recently.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, it's even with the doctors, like, okay, you got chronic fatigue, what do we do? They're like, we don't quite know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you said that you had some time off over Christmas or New Year, like you were aiming for that, and you did have that?
Yes, I did.
And how did that go?
That was awesome. But so Beck, who's my fiance, and I, we actually hired a camper van. But this is something that we had planned a few months in advance. So hired a camper van, just drove around like to the North Shore and did some free camping and all around Sunny Coast hinterland and that, which was stunning. It was still quite draining because you're in a van and sitting on the beach in the sun and you're doing things like that. But it definitely helped. But it's quite hard to judge that because I felt so tired throughout. And that feeling of having 1 hour's sleep for 3 nights in a row type thing that's what you're walking around,
right?
Feeling the whole time. So I had nothing to really compare myself to during that time.
Okay. And then you go back to work?
Yeah, back to work. Yeah, early Jan, and I ended up taking about a week off.
Okay.
But that was probably about 3 months too late.
Right.
Yeah.
But you said this lasted for about 7 months all up. So how did you manage we've talked about maybe a month of that at this stage, and then there's 6 months to go. How did you manage the rest of it?
I just had to be so careful with like diet. So looking at diet. So that was a big focus for me. Just doing those simple things right. Proper diet, drinking lots of water, very light exercise. So we got a little puppy then, so that was good. I did take Reggie, the little Dachshund, for little walks. But then I'd get a little bit more energy, like I said, and then I'm going to run tomorrow, and then run and go backwards again. So just taking care of those simple things. My chairman was like he had offered me some cash to actually go up and do like a this week-long detox up in Noosa, which I really wish I had done. That would be good. And my chairman, he's the one. His son is the one who's had it for 4 years.
Oh, okay, wow.
Without it going away as well. So he was certainly quite concerned because for them, if they didn't have someone to be able to steer the ship and run Talent Fine, it was their investment was going to go to waste as well. Yeah,
and so you didn't take that offer up.
I didn't take that offer up.
Why not?
I don't know. I stupidly felt guilty that I didn't. I don't know. I was like, I didn't want sympathy. I can get through this myself.
Right. I can plow through.
Yeah, I can plow through it, and I think I took quite a bit of it to heart because it's so unknown. A lot of people don't understand it. Some people are quite dismissive of it. I think he just needs to cheer up and
drink some water
and sleep a little bit better.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I'm sure you're not really tired. It's just all in your head.
The stuff you want to hear. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you kind of I wouldn't tell that many people. I'd try and hide the fact a bit then, whereas I'm quite open and vocal about it now because I'm just trying to normalize it, right?
Yeah. And I'm still trying to understand how you managed all that time. Like if you're so tired you can hardly lift up a toothbrush yet, you're going into work and you are running a tech startup. I'm trying to if you look back, how do you think about how you went about it? Man, I just had an amazing team that were able to carry so much for it. It really does. And I touched on it briefly around I remember that day when James, our CTO, he was actually quite pissed off with me, because I'd keep coming into the office and it was stupid, and he did. He took me aside. I remember hand on my shoulder and just be like, mate, you're doing us all a disservice if you keep working and it keeps taking you longer to get better. The best thing that you can do for us, just go home. We've got it. We got, you're not that special. We can survive without you. And he was like, just please go home, get better, come back at full energy, and let's do this thing. Yeah. And that was quite a changer for me. I was like, actually, I'm affecting other people here, not just myself. Because if that had happened a year before, when I didn't have the team,
you know, and we didn't have funding or anything like that, there's no way Talent Vine would be here today.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Right.
So just the fact that thankfully we had those guys to keep going, you know, really supportive board and that as well. They kept the lights on.
And throughout that time, were you taking, say, every month, were you taking a week off, or like how was it sustainable?
During that time,
So during the 7 months, like would you work for 3 weeks and then take a week off to recoup, or like how were you? I just can't understand how you're getting through it.
Yeah, I would. I'd try and work 5 days a week, but then I would have to, you know, occasionally I'd have a bad day, and you start to learn the trends as well. So you know how you feel on one afternoon, and you know you're going to be like death the next day, right? So there'd be times like that. Then I'd be like, okay, out of office is on, guys. I'm going to take the day off. So probably, you know, cumulatively, I probably took a few weeks off in total over that time. And then I did have a block of time as well.
Okay,
it was 10 days or so.
Yeah,
when I did. When James's kind words encouraged me to actually check out.
And do you remember what it was like when you felt you were getting better? Do you remember? It's like I might be getting towards the other end of this.
Yeah, I do actually. I was over in at a friend's wedding in New Zealand.
Okay.
And we'd had the wedding. I'd probably had one wine, so you know, kept it quite tidy. Woke up next morning, we went jet skiing. We had like a bit of a tennis tournament, and obviously, I mean, these are, you know, mates I've absolutely love, and I was not going to miss out on doing any of that stuff, regardless of how long I had to sleep afterwards. So I remember doing all that type of activity and being like, man, I still feel okay. I feel pretty good. Like I was waiting for that crash, and so that was great, because that was, you know, about 5 days over in New Zealand, and you know, quality time with friends, and some nice fresh air and going for walks and stuff like that. And then that was kind of the turning point for me. It was like, okay, I'm getting better now. Right.
And then from that point on, was it relatively smooth sailing as far as the chronic fatigue went?
No, I still you still feel it now and again.
Wow. Okay.
So, I mean, it's 98%. It's gone. I feel that I've always been quite big on my racing, like my marathons and triathlons and things like that. There's like that fifth gear that I've lost.
Okay.
I just don't think I'll ever have that same kind of gear that I did have previously.
Right.
But then again, hey, I'm getting a little bit older, and I'm 7 kgs heavier than I was back then as well, right? So maybe maybe the excuse is pointing at in the wrong place. But yeah, there's still occasional times when I feel that deep fatigue, where, you know, it's not just kind of tiredness, and then it's a good idea I'm just going to have a very chill weekend, or, you know, if you need to just scale back then the next day or do something like that, then you can.
Right.
But that generally doesn't ever last longer than 48 hours.
Wow. Okay. That must be a relief.
Yeah, it is it's a relief, but it's also quite scary as well. Like if you like COVID, right? If you read about long COVID, that's what they describe is long COVID symptoms is like chronic fatigue. So it's that memory loss aspect, that, you know, sore muscles, wanting to sleep the whole time. So yeah, put those two lists of conditions side by side, and they're exactly the same.
Wow.
So it does bother me a little bit, because I think there's about 80% of people that have had chronic fatigue who get COVID get those symptoms back.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really? 80%?
Yeah, it's quite big.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, it's nasty.
Yeah, right. Are you vaccinated?
I've had my first jab. Yeah,
right.
I've got about another 4 weeks until I can get my next AZ.
Right.
Are you?
I'm the same, basically. But yeah, I was just asking because I'm sure you're really keen to be protected from that now.
Yeah, I'm really keen. I mean, both my parents got Delta.
Oh, right.
Yeah, back in Zim, and it's still hanging around.
Okay.
For a bit, and they're not. Neither of them at 100%. That's about 3 months later as well.
Wow.
So yeah, it's quite nasty.
Okay. And is it like fatigue-like symptoms and that they're getting?
Yeah, they are.
Okay.
Yeah.
No good.
Yeah.
Jeez. But I understand COVID wasn't great for Talent Vine either. The company.
No, it wasn't. Yeah, I mean, geez, that hit us quite hard, right? So and this can kind of put into kind of context, right? So February 2020 when everything was still hunky-dory and no one knew what was coming. We had about 83 active roles on the platform. And then in April, when everyone realized that COVID had actually hit, we had 4.
Wow.
Roles. So it was quite a massive change for us. And it was awful, right? Obviously, the recruitment industry was hit, front and center. We had to make a bunch of, redundancies, which was my first time as a leader having to make people redundant, which is absolutely awful. But, we did really well as a team. We all banded together and kind of helped each other, and other people managed to get other people roles, and that, which was good. Thankfully through our network with recruiters, that certainly helped. But yeah, that was just, internally our team got hit really hard, but being on that other side, like, so for example, you imagine whenever we sent out a newsletter, to 1,000 or so people, we'd like every week there was 100 new out of officers saying I'm no longer in this role.
Right. Yeah.
And so we saw that from especially the recruiter side, just getting absolutely smashed by redundancies the whole time. A lot of the people in the talent acquisition space on the employer side as well, we're getting those out of offices and them getting all made redundant. So, we certainly we decided as a team, man, this is not the environment. We're not here to sell, right? The board strategically, we said, we have to cut fast and hard. Which we did. You got to preserve your cash so that you can make the most of the recovery time, which thankfully is exactly what we did, and
right.
That's enabled us to do pretty well now. But yeah, it was pretty devastating. I mean, we had recruiters like in tears on the phone to us, just like, where's the jobs? Can we, I haven't earned anything in months and stuff like that, and yeah, that part really sucked. We had so many new recruits signing up to Talent Find just in kind of in kind of desperation, which then it was a real kind of conflict as well, because we had all the OG recruiters that had been there with us through good and bad, that were suddenly all their bids were getting watered down, and there was a much lower chance of them making placements because of all the new ones. So like, what do? We put like a waiting list in place, and we kind of stopped any new recruiters coming on board. But then, like I said, you'd get new recruiters phoning us in tears and being like, oh my God, thankfully we found Talent Find this a way that we can still make placements during this, in this environment. So, you can't then be sorry you're on a waiting list, so things did start to pick up a bit in about September 2020. So thankfully we had a few of our big clients, they kept the lights on for us as well. Right. And still kept a bit coming through. But yeah, it was a grim period. Yeah. It was just the not knowing, right? That was the main thing, is how long are we going to be facing this lull? Yeah.
What is this thing? What is a pandemic? I mean, a lot of us haven't faced anything like this in our lifetime.
No, exactly. Well, ask some distant relatives of mine, and they'll tell you a whole different reason for what this whole pandemic is, to do with Bill Gates and 5G and that. But let's not go into that. Leave that for Joe Rogan's podcast.
Yeah, we better not get into that. Yeah. But wow. So you were hit because like all the jobs just dried up, basically. Is that right?
Yeah, correct. So all the employers all pretty much panicked. And they just thought that they were going to lose all their revenue, so they did the same thing, right? Cut fast and hard. So there, obviously, some employers didn't make that many people redundant, but when we were speaking to talent acquisition teams, that it was like, I remember doing a demo with one of the big four, and then being like, and basically they used the words of, look, Justin, I've had to make 40 people redundant this week already. I don't know if myself or some of my colleagues are going to be made redundant this week. So the last thing on our mind right now is talent acquisition. Yeah. But sure. Yeah. Show me your demo anyway. Right. Okay. And I was like, oh, right. So that was kind of, yeah. And we did. Yeah. I mean, never heard anything more, but, that's kind of what we're facing. Right. So we just said as a team, man, let's not sell. Yep. Let's just, can we show empathy, phone people, what can we do to help? Yep. How are things looking? And that's where you get the loyalty in the good times.
So, and how long did you do that for? How long did you turn off the sales tap for, where you thought it was wrong to sell?
So we, don't get me wrong. It wasn't a case of, all right, we're no longer selling, right? But it was just in terms of the, if you're doing cold call with someone, or you hadn't spoken to someone for a few months, it wasn't a case of, hey, I saw you've got 3 roles on Seek. Do you want us to to help. It's just more a case of, hey, how are you going at the moment? Look, you know, and if they were struggling, then that could pretty much raise it. But we doubled down on our digital marketing during that time. So, you know, we saw that a lot of the big recruiters stopped digital marketing, so it was less competitive during that period, which was quite good for us. And we actually managed to pick up. As you know, there was obviously a lot of businesses that still did incredibly well. We got quite a lot of e-commerce companies coming and finding us that way. Because they were obviously all booming. And there are a lot of, as you can imagine, a lot of businesses, because of the shutdowns and that, you had mom and dad pizza shops and chemists and that on the corner store who all decided to go digital. So everyone decided suddenly they needed digital and IT talent as well. So then we started to see a bit of, you know, an increase in demand come in those areas, and that's what we were able to target.
Okay. Interesting. And so you would have had plans prior to COVID, I assume, for what you wanted to do over the year or the next couple of years. Was it a case of you just had to kind of figure out something else to do in the meantime, and then you could get back to what you were originally going to do? Or did this fundamentally change the way you built the business going forward?
We tried to make some fundamental changes. Like we knew the model worked, right? And we knew clients loved it, and you know, we had enough supply and demand to, you know, for the marketplace to work. But it was more the concern of, hey, if we're going to be in this lull for 3-4 years, let's be honest, do we really want to be doing it? Do we really want to be eking through, you know, a tenth of what we were kind of doing before? And you know, so we had to kind of, and myself as a leader, you know, take some long hard looks and realize as well, like the rest of the team, are they going to want to jump ship? Are they going to think that, man, this is who wants to be in recruitment tech in 2020? So that was quite a big concern for me, was if we were going to lose the whole team or not. But what we did is, we went kind of back to basics and realized, all right, what have we got as a business, right? Why do people use us? We've got a lot of recruiters. So for example, one of the things was a lot of recruiters that got made redundant from the large agencies, they were deciding to suddenly set up, you know, it was like, well, they couldn't get a job anywhere else, so they were just going and getting an ABN and setting up as themselves. So as part of when they were registering, we had the option, hey, you know, to actually be on Talentvine, which was a rule that we had beforehand, was you had to actually have a website and that. So we did a few kind of websites for recruiters.
Right.
You know, so like our product manager and one of the tech team know WordPress, right? And so we said, oh, well, hey, yeah, you can use Talentvine, but we'll design a quick website in that for you as well. So we looked at other ways like that we could make a bit of revenue. Yeah. Like we changed Talentvine to not just being where employers can actually go and just select the recruiters. They could actually go and select any kind of service that they could need. So it could be help us rewrite our people policies, right? Help us write some, you know, redundancy, you know, help us do some kind of redundancies or anything like that as well, right? So that's a little kind of pivot that we moved to
right
during that time.
And have kept it.
No.
Okay, you haven't kept that.
No, they they weren't that successful,
Okay.
to be honest. So
right.
we just. Yeah, stick to the basics. Look, employers can, in saying that, employers can still go onto the platform today and select a service, but that's 1% of the usage on the platform.
Right. Okay. Yes, very, very, very interesting. And so how long into COVID were you able to stop doing things like that, stop doing these little pivots and stuff just to get some cash coming in?
Look, we were so lucky that we, you know, with the government support, you know, like the Q Rider and what was it, JobKeeper? Was it? Yep. That's what they called.
Yep.
That was pretty good for us. So we didn't, when that started coming through, we realized didn't have to kind of panic too long. Like it was a case of we've got enough cash to get us through until, you know, kind of mid this year. Mm-hmm. So we knew that was kind of worst case scenario. And then anything on that was a bonus. And then, you know, around September time, so it was about 6 months before we expected, that's when the market started picking up.
Okay.
And getting a bit better. But I mean, one of the quite fascinating things, and I don't know if you felt this way at all, was quite a few founders that I spoke to during COVID who suddenly had this sense of peace over them. So when you're doing founder life, everything's on your shoulders, right? Mm-hmm. You know, it's your that P&L, the revenue and the targets, that everything kind of comes down to you. And then all of a sudden there was this massive macro event that hit us all, and it was almost like, you know what? There's nothing I can do about this. COVID's here, and for once, it's like this responsibility was out of your hands.
Right.
And so I felt quite a bit of peace during that time of like, you know what? If Talent Vine goes under, we've done what we can, and this, and we've got this COVID asterisk against us of, it would have been a raging success if it wasn't for that. And quite a few people feel exactly the same, right? It's one of my very good friends. They've got Airbnb rental management service, so you can imagine how hard they were hit, like massively. But it was the same thing as well. Like we've done what we can. This is out of our hands. That's
so curious. So it doesn't matter about the result really. It's the fact that you don't have to beat yourself up about it.
Yeah, you constantly spend all this time just trying to control everything. Yeah. Right, everything's got to be in control, and all of a sudden it wasn't out of control, and you could try and control it as much as you want, and you would have absolutely no effect from that.
Yeah, right. And that was a common thing you heard amongst other founders, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, there were obviously a few who were like, "What the hell are you talking about, Justin? I haven't slept for 6 months." But there definitely were quite a few that I've spoken to in that.
Right. Okay. Yes, I think for me the COVID was kind of the second hit for me. So I was used to it because I'd spent some time looking after my pop when he was had cancer. So that's towards the end of his life. So it was a very similar situation, very lockdown type environment because you couldn't do that much. And obviously I was committed to it, and it was great. He lived a lot longer than we thought, but it was hard in the way that I hadn't planned for that personally. So COVID for me my first reaction to it was I've been through this recently. I know what I'm doing. Actually, you would have. Bizarrely enough. So
how was your headspace through COVID then?
I didn't like getting stuck in Victoria. So I got stuck in Victoria. I was down there for a wedding. It just got in time. Yep. And I was visiting family, so I went and visited family for a very long time because I couldn't get back to Queensland. And it was okay for a while. It got pretty old a few months in. Yeah. And obviously I hadn't had anything like this happen before. I kept on thinking the border's about to open. Because I had no context that how long it could really take to open back up again.
So how long were you down in total?
6 months.
Wow.
Yeah. And even getting back was a big, it took me like a month to get back to Queensland with all the things I had to do just to get back. Because I had to go to Canberra first and spend a couple of weeks in Canberra before I could go back to Brisbane and a few things like that. So it was quite a, I was pretty sick of it by the end of the year. It's a strange feeling not being able to go home. You can't go without hotel quarantine. I really wanted to avoid that. So,
Does it change your perspective on many things, like how you value your home life and things like that?
Yeah, it has. I really value now, where I live and just being able to go home, and I'm so much more chilled now these days. Yeah. Because I know kind of what I've got now as opposed to what can happen when and look, my family were fine to live with and all that, but I was, 30 at the time, and I don't really want to be living with my family. It wasn't the plan, I was just visiting, and it was a long visit in the end. So
6 months.
That was tough.
Yeah, it would have been. Yeah. I discovered gardening in lockdown.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And that's my jam now.
Right.
Yeah.
Hadn't done it before?
No, actually, I mean, when Beck and I, so we bought a place a couple of years ago, and I specifically wanted to get an apartment, and I used the words, I want to get an apartment so that we can just lock it up, and I don't want to spend my weekends mowing my lawn.
I would have exactly the same thought. Yep.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. But, obviously, so I wanted a inner city apartment. Beck wanted to get a really old Queenslander out somewhere by the bay. So, we compromised and did exactly what she wanted to do, and got an old Queenslander in Wynnum, which had a garden. And, so first couple of weeks was, this is a bit of a chore. And then I just realized, oh wow, actually I can have the coolest lawn on the block, right? And then I can start planting some stuff. So yeah, I've got over 300 300 plants that I've now put
300?
300
wow.
plants and
Okay.
the best lawn on the block.
Right. Okay. Is that the motivator, having the best lawn on the block? Like, what's it do for you, this gardening thing?
Sense of achievement. For me, I just love seeing stuff grow and being in the space that I'm in. I tap away at a keyboard all day. I never actually use my hands, and I never actually see something grow or develop. Like, I'd love to be a woodworker or a tradie or something like that. You get to see exactly what you're creating. I've never had that in any of my careers previously. So I think kind of discovering that side was pretty good. Pretty lucky. My mom came over as well, like just before we kind of went into COVID. So did have like a couple of months with her there. She's a keen gardener, so she helped me get a couple of plants into the ground. And then during lockdown, starting to see the growth and the opportunities. I just went all out.
Yeah, right. Very cool. One of the recent guests on the podcast, Dan Scoogle, who's an accountant, said the same thing when he went out and did. He bought a cattle farm or a farm. I can't remember exactly what type of farm, but he did stuff on the farm, and you could actually see the fruits of his labor as compared to usually he's tapping away all day on a keyboard and doing up P&Ls and compliance work and all that. But it's not the same level of tangibility. It doesn't feel like it.
Yeah.
As opposed to actually building something with your hands.
Yeah, exactly. And it's your first home I've ever owned. 4 years ago, I thought home ownership would be still a complete kind of pipe dream. When you're trying to do the startup thing and that. So it's something that I'm so grateful for, and I love so much. So a Saturday morning for me, I put my big Bunnings hat on and put a podcast in and lather myself in sun cream and say bye to Beck, and she sees me 8 hours later.
Wow.
And I'll just
8 hours.
Put her on well, that's probably a little bit of an exaggeration, but I'll be in the garden for hours at a time.
Wow.
And it's just constantly just finding something different to do.
I want to see this garden now. You got to take a photo of it and send it to me.
I've got a whole Instagram
You've got an Instagram
page
account, don't you? Yeah, right. I need the @ for that.
The.lawn.whisperer.
What, that.lawn.whisperer?
No, the dot.
Okay.
Lawn.whisperer.
The Lawn Whisperer.
I only came here to plug that page.
All right. Well, everyone who's listening to this, go to their Instagram page and blow it up, because I'm sure it looks great.
Yes, I need 10 followers, please.
Cool. And the other thing I wanted to touch on in this episode was about you describe yourself as a raging insomniac. When did that happen?
Probably around 10 years ago.
Oh, okay, so that's a while ago now.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, it has been a while.
So couple that with the chronic fatigue, that would have been hell.
Yeah, that was hell. I mean, look, one good thing from the chronic fatigue was I slept quite well. To be
right.
honest.
So it helped.
Yeah, it did help me sleep, but the only problem was your body wants to sleep well for 16 hours a day instead of 8. So that was a little bit of respite. But yeah, I've always just been a terrible sleeper. I'm just an overthinker. Wake up in the middle of the night and just need to think about one work thing, and that's all I can think of for the next 3-4 hours.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay. And so what's that like now? How do you sleep these days?
I sleep very well now. So I decided to do something alongside my doctor, should I say, in kind of consultation. So I'd been trying sleeping tablets for a while. That really affected with my mood the next day. And I just don't like, everything about pharmaceuticals doesn't really kind of sit well with me. So the doctor thought, try some CBD. So got prescribed CBD, didn't help that much. And then thought, well, try some THC oil. So I've started taking, there's an indica type of THC oil, take a few drops in the evening, half an hour before I go to bed, and sleep amazing. And it's so good. And I mean, I mentioned this to you beforehand as well. I was quite scared about mentioning that. There's, there's a real kind of, everyone's got an opinion around, what they see as kind of potheads, right? Whereas I just want to kind of normalize this stuff and kind of lift what's a bit of a cannabis curtain and realize that, this is just a much better, healthier drug. And it, and when I say drug, it's, I say that in the same way that you would use a headache tablet or anything else, right?
Yep.
It helps you. You feel great. I wake up in the morning. I'm not groggy. I've had a good sleep, and I know I've just taken something herbal, and I can get back at it again. So there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, right. That's incredible. How long did you start doing that?
That was during the start of last year.
Okay.
That would have been actually. So probably
about 18 months?
Close to about 18 months now.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay. And how long before it started? So THC, by the way, tetrahydrocannabinol.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a cannabis product. How long before it started doing effective things for you?
So I was originally just trying the CBD, right? So from cannabis you can derive. So there's the CBD, which is pretty much the calming, element, and then the THC, which is traditionally that kind of psychoactive aspect of it. But because they've tested so much of it, and it's been through labs and everything like that, they can obviously really change the type of strains that you give, especially that they give medicinal.
Yep.
Medicinal patients, because people use it for everything from chronic fatigue to anxiety to glaucoma and
Yep.
the rest of those conditions as well. So going back, so THC, tried that for about 2 months, didn't see some real kind of results, and then they gave me the CBD and THC combination, and I would say first night,
Wow.
man, it's a game changer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah, honestly
Yeah.
is instant results.
Right. Okay. And so you wake up feeling refreshed and all that afterwards as well?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, wake up feeling refreshed. I mean, if someone was a good sleeper, they might feel a little bit more groggy, in the morning, but I feel refreshed because I'm comparing it to what it's like waking up when I haven't slept.
Very cool. And I like the when you did talk about drugs there, essentially, because I describe myself as being drug-free now, but what I'm referring to is I don't drink alcohol or have caffeine anymore. And we sort of think about, as a society, we think about those things as almost not drugs, but they are.
Exactly.
Caffeine's a drug, alcohol's a drug, and I like to say drug-free because that's what it is when we and talk to the biology of it rather than the legalities of it. I suppose people think drugs are illicit drugs, and and I'm not not suggesting people take them, but alcohol's a drug.
Exactly.
And it's it should be described as such.
Yeah, it 100% should. And when you look back at the reasons why marijuana was outlawed and that in the old days, it was ridiculous. And in the US, it was basically driven by this fear that it was causing Mexican men to want to have sex with white women.
Okay.
And that was enough of a scare, campaign for people to want to ban it. But yeah, I mean, I can, it's not addictive or anything whatsoever. I can go a full week if I need to, if I'm in a good headspace without having some. But
Cool.
I try and go a day without caffeine, and I've got a raging headache.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm scared about mentioning this on this podcast, right? But then if someone else came on a podcast and said, oh yeah, sometimes I don't sleep, so I'll have 2 big glasses of wine before, and then I sleep really well. No one would even blink.
Yep. Yeah, right.
It's silly, isn't it?
And so the caffeine, you have to have a bit of caffeine still?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
You gotta love that coffee.
Yeah.
Before lunchtime.
Yeah, right.
Which is silly because I know I shouldn't have it because it probably does affect my sleep as it is, right? But
yeah, the half-life of caffeine is very long, so it can be anyway. But yeah, interesting.
So
yeah,
why?
Interesting.
So caffeine, no booze? Is that a recent thing?
Relatively recent, probably in the last, and by none. It's pretty much none. Maybe in that time, let's say I've done that for, I think the last time I had a lot of beer was in May. So that would be 5 months ago now-ish.
Right.
Early May too. And so since then, maybe all up, I've perhaps had 20 beers. 20 beers in 5 months, though, for me is not much. But
No.
I could probably have that in a weekend quite comfortably, especially in my younger days.
Yeah, well done. What drove this change?
I was wanting to get healthier and wanting to focus on the fundamental changes I needed to make to do it. And I'm a very all or nothing person. I don't do moderation well. Mm-hmm. So my rules have to be around do it or don't do it a lot, or don't do it at all. So that's why. And when I say caffeine, I don't drink coffee. I haven't drank coffee. I've had probably 2 coffees in my life, but it was your Pepsi Max and your Coke Zero and all that stuff, which then affects your sleep. You sleep. You're tired the next day. When you're tired, you eat more. You eat crap food. You drink more caffeine to try and wake you up. It's a vicious cycle. So I was trying to to put a circuit breaker on that cycle, essentially.
Yeah, that's great. Well done.
Yeah.
And feeling better as a result?
Look, honestly, I don't think it's probably done as much for me as what I thought it would. It's good changes, but it's still, I still need to drink a lot of water. I still need to eat well. And, the eating well is really something that I put a lot of focus on these days, because that really helps too. Like if you have a day of eating if I do have a whole day of eating shit food, I feel crap anyway. And I'm like, I've made all these changes, go to the gym every day. I don't drink caffeine. And it's still, it feels like as I get older, the margin for errors slimming down.
Yeah, no, fair enough. That's good. I'm surprised you're not feeling a big difference from flicking the booze, because that's, I probably drink similar amounts to you, right? That's something that we've myself and my partner, that we've stopped doing, and I feel so much better for it. It's just for I can just lose weight if I'm not having beer as well. But yeah, in terms of the mental clarity, and I'm just a better person when I'm not drinking.
Okay. Yeah, no, maybe my expectations were too high. Maybe I was expecting miracles from it, and it's a good change, but it's not the silver bullet either.
Yeah, for sure.
So, and you got to remember with what I have is sleeping, problem with sleep apnea. So, you chuck that in there as well. And if you drink and you've got caffeine going on, and that's keeping you up or whatever, or making your sleep low quality, plus you chuck in sleep apnea on top of that, and you're kind of getting behind the 8 ball the next day.
Totally. And how's your sleep at the moment and your sleep apnea?
I still have to treat it. I still have to treat sleep apnea. I think the only way that I wouldn't have to is if I got really slim, which I'm aiming to do, but that will take a while. And even then, I'm not sure if it will cure it per se.
Right.
But I still need maybe 10 hours a night, every night.
Really?
So that's, it's quite a liability for me. So if you have, and I'm useless. If I get, say, 6, I'm useless.
Right.
So that's how much it affects me. And that's how important it is to get it right. So yeah, probably explains a few of those changes. They didn't feel that extreme to me, because it was just so needed.
And is that needing 10 hours, is that because like you're awake for 2 of those, or is it just so broken? I
don't think neither. I just need 10 hours.
Right.
It's not, I don't wake up in the night. I don't, because of the sleep, the CPAP machine I have, you can, and this is great for business owners and founders will probably enjoy this, that you can quantify the quality of your sleep. So if you want to, the next day you can look at what's called your AHI value, which is how many apneas or hypopneas you had per hour during the night. So, but you've got to, like, I had to stop looking at that in the morning, because then you start prejudging how your day is going to be. If you get a poor result, you're like, oh, today's going to be shit. So I've stopped looking at it. Or if you look at it at night before you go to bed. For anyone needing that tip, I'm not sure if there's anyone who needed it, but yeah.
And when you look at it at night, does the data match your experience of that day? You're like, oh, I had a shit day, but and now I can tell why. It's
a good question. I haven't looked in so long. I can't remember.
Start.
Yeah, no. It's been better not to look. I know that. Did the data match? I don't know. I can't remember. I don't want to answer that and give a shitty answer. For some reason, it's been that long since I've checked.
Well, if you've got into a good routine and not looking, keep that going.
Yeah. So, but obviously there's a reason I stopped doing it. So, but yeah, right. This has turned into health and wellness podcast.
Come to us, we'll solve all your sleep problems.
But yeah, for people worrying about what I'm saying, I do have a background in pharmacy. So before they start worrying about me spouting off about drugs and this, I do know a couple of things. So,
nice.
So don't think that I'm some conspiracy guy.
All right.
But yeah, looking forward, what's plans for the future? Talent Vine U, like 6 years now. Awesome job to still be going. I mean, I take my hat off to you. You've done what a lot of people can't. I think you've definitely done what I couldn't do, and stuck through such difficult times. When you look to the future, what do you see?
Yeah, thanks, Jack. Nice of you to say that. I think I've got a lot less hair than I had on my head when I last came in here. So it's certainly taken its toll. But yeah, look, we're in a great position. Last 4 quarters, we're averaging about 45% quarter-on-quarter growth at the moment. So it's
awesome.
Pretty solid for us. So we've just started our Series A, so looking to raise between 1.5. So it'll be quite significant for us. So that'll give us real good opportunities to just get a lot more kind of market share, really beef out the team, and yeah, I'm feeling really bullish on 2022.
Awesome.
It's you certainly don't want to celebrate an unfortunate situation, and with the borders being locked, no one wants that. Right? I haven't seen my family for 2 years or anything like that as well, right? It's awful, but with that, the massive shortage of talent in Australia, there's the demand for recruiters is kind of through the roof at the moment. So, like I said, not celebrating that situation, whatever, but we need to capitalize and make the most of it, because this shortage and these issues are going to continue at least until 2024.
Well, it's a real problem, right? I mean, you're solving a real problem, so there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, we're solving a problem, and we are, it's gone from that kind of mentality of let's just try and make money and let's just see, how much revenue we can get just so we can kind of show traction and raise money, to we're helping. We're generally helping, and making value, and having some really meaningful impacts with both employers and recruiters. So it makes it easier when you've got that vision and that kind of value of what you are as a business, and you have a meaning for doing what you're doing. So yeah, look, good position at the moment. Just continue, just trying to get as much kind of market share as possible. It's still quite bleeding edge for a lot of people. The kind of concept of what we're doing. The recruitment has been quite stagnant. Not much has changed at all in about the last 40 years. So there's still a bit of an education piece around that. But yeah, I'm feeling good, and just very keen to just really expand the team and just get some awesome people. So if you know any good recruiters, please let me know.
I will. And it should be noted as well, I guess, that you're back to your pre-COVID team size.
Yes, we are.
Yeah,
we are, which feels good, and just started looking to hire one more at the moment, and then should be about another 10 to 13 over the next year. Yeah,
right. Awesome. And we talked about last time on the podcast that you did a business plan early in your journey, and it wasn't that valuable at that time. Have you changed? Do you do business plans now? And that their value of the business plan doing one has changed?
Look, yeah, we do. We don't do business plans, per se, right? Just because we've got a business and we kind of know what we're doing. But I think I was. Yeah, listening back to that previous podcast, I was quite dismissive of structure, and I think that's just that early stage is there's no structure, no one knows what they're doing. You're just flying by the seat of your pants at the time. So yeah, we do go to market strategies and things like that. It's obviously incredibly important, marketing plans and how we're going to execute that. So yeah, we definitely do that now.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
But a lot of it is still. I'm still a big fan of that done is better than perfect. Let's just try it out, right? If we instead of let's write a plan and hypothesize about how things might turn out, let's just put $500 towards some ads and just run some A/B testing, right? And just do something like that. So I think we've evolved as a business a lot more to think in that way, of let's not be kind of paralyzed by plans. If we think something might work, let's just try it. And if it doesn't, let's move fast and change it.
There would have been a lot of plans get put in the bin at the start of COVID as well. That was a good example of, you don't know what's coming.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
it's so true.
But yeah, very cool. We should wrap up soon, but I appreciate you coming back a third time and speaking to me.
Thank you.
Being so open about all the things that happened. When you mentioned to me offline that the chronic fatigue thing and all that, I was really keen to get you back and to hear about how that all works. So I appreciate you coming in and sharing those stories. It's certainly what I'm trying to do here. Is the tagline these days is real business owners, real stories. So I appreciate you doing that for us, because it's not, and I want to note that it's not necessarily an easy thing to do. It's and there might even feel like there's some risk to saying some of these things. I'm very conscious of that.
No, thank you. And I do, yeah, I definitely feel, there's some risk, especially around mentioning that, the THC thing. And it's just because of the preconceived ideas that people have of people that use marijuana for whatever reason. But it's an effective tool. Yeah. And I think I've got an advantage over other people because of the fact that I have it. So, no, thank you for having me on and giving me the chance to share the stuff and, just to normalize it. And, certainly if anyone out there, is listening, has had chronic fatigue or feel that they're going through the moment, get in contact. I'm more than happy to share and just know that it's normal. It's not in your head. This is an actual condition, right? And just rest.
Yeah, absolutely. And I felt the same thing with sleep apnea, right? When I first had that, and I was like, just drink a bit more water, do a bit more of this or that. It is so far beyond that you need something significant to do with it, so to help you out. So can definitely relate to that. But if anyone wanted to get in touch or wanted to find out more about Talent Vine, what is the best places to go?
So the best place would be to go to the Lawn Whisperer
yes,
Instagram
of course.
page.
I can't forget that one.
So we're online, so talentvine.com.au, and we're active across LinkedIn, Instagram not so much, and Facebook probably not so much, but
Instagram for the Lawn Whisperer though.
Totally. Cool. And Reggie the Dash Hound.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Well, thanks again, Justin. Really appreciate your time and your sharing your story, and I'll see you again in 4 years.
We will do. Well, maybe before then we'll turn the mic on you again, and we'll get a real update from you. But great to be back, and thanks again.
Yeah, appreciate it, Justin.
Okay, cheers.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Push Podcast. Show notes can be found at bethepush.com/podcast and clicking on the relevant episode link. Remember to subscribe, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.